Please stand clear of the doors. Por favor, manténganse alejado de las puertas.
Hey there, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Monorail Monday, episode number 23. We're going to dive behind the scenes, tell little stories, some history and things like that. If you haven't seen any of the previous episodes, check the link below. We got playlists for different seasons of Monorail Monday and lots of behind the scenes stories, anecdotes, and a bit of Disney history along the way. So we're going to jump back into the scrapbook that we were talking about the last episode, some Disney history at the beginning of the Disney decade. We learned about vultures plaguing Contemporary and Discovery Island. The vultures continued to be a problem until later in the year, although Disney was seen to be following the rules and the laws that were laid out. So there was not much more trouble from cast members clubbing birds. There were some issues going on. There was, it seemed like there was a collection of these little accidents. There's lots of stuff that happens all the time at Disney as far as accidents or little problems that people never hear about. There were a group of things that got reported early in the year 1990 and on to the rest of the year. So let's talk about a couple of those things real quick. So the first one we're going to talk about here is this little article here. 5 people hurt at the Haunted Mansion. 2 couples from Jersey, from Britain, and a 6-year-old girl were injured when some plaster pieces from the ceiling and the wall, the stretch room at the Haunted Mansion fell onto a couple of people. There were very minor injuries. They were taken to the hospital to be checked out and released. Everything was okay. But it was closed for the day, and they're not, at least they weren't sure what happened. But that was not the only issue at the Haunted Mansion that year. Later that year, a kid, a teenager, was jumping between doom buggies on the Haunted Mansion because he was going to scare his friend. This is some people like to lean over and yell at their friends or whatever. And the Haunted Mansion, because you're not really restrained in there, it's slow moving. They've had a lot of problems, especially in my years there. It was a regular issue that people would get out of the doom buggies, try and wander to scare their friend in the next car or something like that. There's pressure mats all over the place these days. It's monitored. Don't do it. Don't do it. You just get the ride shut down. They're going to come find you. You're going to get kicked out. You may get banned. It's just not worth it. And haha, you jumped and scared your friends in the doom buggies. So what happened was this teenage girl jumped out of the Omni Mover, jumped from one doom buggy to the next to try and scare her friends, slipped, fell between them, and ended up getting dragged along the track with her head stuck under a car, and she got dragged about 50 feet. When she was rescued, she had to go for emergency surgery. She was in critical condition and had a fractured skull, had cuts to her face, had to have some plastic surgery done. And at the end of everything, it was determined she was expected to live. She did live. But just another example of don't do stupid things. Don't jump out of the vehicle. Don't try to do stuff to scare your friends. Just follow the ride rules. This kind of stuff just didn't get reported as much. But the news and the TV channels regularly listened to Disney frequencies. They knew the Disney frequencies on the radio, and they listened to our radios, and basically they knew that something was up. If there was a call with some different codes used, they knew what that meant, and they would come send a group to try and figure out what's going on. Nowadays, with social media, Twitter, and all that kind of stuff, this stuff is reported instantaneously, and everybody on Twitter, everybody on various Disney forums, Facebook, everybody goes just completely crazy responding to this stuff. Another issue, and this just got a little news clip on TV. It got a little bit tiny blurb in the Orlando Sentinel. That was this one. Monorail bumps platform and 2 Disney workers are hurt. This is actually the monorail collided with the work tractor on the monorail beam during normal operations, although there were no guests involved at all. We'll discuss that one. We'll probably talk about that and a couple other little monorail accidents in another episode. But I just want to point out that this also was like right around 90, 91, that another little incident. And surprisingly, there's just this little blurb about it. If that happens today, almost 28 years later, we would be looking at endless Twitter and online commentary about it, and the world would be coming to an end, basically, because everything gets completely blown out of proportion. It did back then too. I worked on a roller coaster at Dollywood that the 2 trains bumped each other in the station less than 5 miles an hour, and a week later people were talking about, wow, there was a collision, people died. I mean, the story just got completely blown up as to some, crazy, it really got embellished. In May, Dick Tracy premiered. It was rumored for a while that the premiere was going to happen at Disney's Pleasure Island at the AMC theaters there, and it actually did happen. I know a lot of cast members who went out there to go see it. They wanted to see the stars. There was rumors that Warren Beatty and Madonna would both be there. As it turned out, only Warren Beatty was there. Even back then, I really didn't want to get involved in the crowds. I didn't want to end up waiting forever. And just to get a glimpse of Warren Beatty, oh, there he is. It just didn't seem like anything I wanted to spend a lot of time with. But it was pretty fun that event came to Disney itself. Of course, Dick Tracy ended up not being all that good. Did make a lot of money, and a bunch of the Dick Tracy planned shows and rides never ended up happening. Now, looking here, we've got towards the end of May and getting into June. This is Universal, and Universal's grand opening was a huge event. It was a huge event, and I'm going to talk about that in another episode. There's a lot of stuff in here from the very beginning, the opening days at the park. I had a few friends who went to the first couple of days. I didn't go the first couple of days. It was a little bit after that I first went. But it's very interesting. We are going to talk about some of the very beginning of the Universal Park opening in Orlando. Meanwhile, back at Disney in June, the Ninja Turtles came on board. That was pretty huge. The arrival of the Ninja Turtles, they were really popular at the time. And they had meet and greets at the end of New York Street. You could see it from the tram for the movie studio tour. And it was really, really popular. Also saw the Honey I Shrunk the Kids Adventure Zone. That was really cool. That sparked up. So there was a lot of stuff going on in that area. That was like some of the first big expansions to the studios. Check this out. So this is a full-page ad sheet in the Orlando Sentinel. What's up at Walt Disney World? And this is from March of 1990. Check out, they got Illuminations, which was still really new back then. At Pleasure Island, they had Hospitality Industry Night, which was half price admission onto the island. Neon Armadillo Picture Night, and Adventurers Club Liars Night. Win prizes for telling your best adventure story. Oh my gosh. I didn't do that, but I should have. So here's something cool. At the Disney-MGM studios, because it was originally started as a working studio, see how things work at the movies, how the movies get made and things like that. And they actually filmed some shows and things like that at the working studio. So they would often have stars. They had like a small parade. They had stars visiting, and they would put their handprints and stuff in front of the Great Movie Ride. So on this particular month, you can see that Marcus Allen, the LA Raiders running back, J.D. Roth from Funhouse on TV was coming in March. Rob Stone from Mr. Belvedere, and Brenda Vaccaro, TV and film star. So people would come, they get to see the stars, stuff like that. That was always pretty exciting. It didn't last very long. but for a short time, there were all these stars, bigger and smaller, that would come through the Disney Hollywood studios. You might get a chance to glimpse a star or something like that. And that park, of course, is so completely different now from what it was way back when. The next one we're going to look at here is this one here. I hear Disney sues train manufacturer. So basically Disney sued Bombardier, who made the trains, the Mark 6 trains for Disney, for $15 million due to issues like the train's power supply not quite fitting in with the current system, so alterations had to be made. The train's height was not delivered on spec, so some things like the contemporary entrance for the monorails, that had to be adjusted, of course, for the difference in the height of the train, because the Mark 6s were a little bit taller. And there were a lot of things that weren't quite delivered to specification that Disney had to do alterations on. So they sued for $15 million. Bombardier countersued Disney for $13.3 million. Another issue that cropped up was that the Disney monorail trains, the Mark 6s, arrived about a year later than they were supposed to. So that all got kind of pushed back. They were theoretically supposed to finish arriving late '89, and the last ones weren't coming on until '90, '91 that they finished going through all the testing and bringing all the newer monorails onto the system. So that's just a quick another look at the scrapbook and just a few things that were going on. Like I said, we're going to probably have another couple episodes down the road, talk about Universal and talk about Universal's opening, what it was like at the very, very early days, and some of the things that went right and some of the things that went wrong. But Universal opening was a huge game changer in the Orlando area. So thanks for watching. Appreciate everybody giving their time and attention, and subscribing, liking, sharing, commenting, tell your friends. Be sure to comment if you've got any questions, or if you just like something in particular we talked about. We'll be coming back next week with another episode. It'll be episode number 24 of Monorail Monday coming next week. Remember, kids, have a good time all the time.